Hello everybody. Today we're going to start working on the avionics. With the tank still being in test, as you can see on the bottom right, the tank is there in the standard to be tested. We can now start working on the avionics because the last piece of skin that needs to be attached to the plane is the forward top skin, and that's preventing us from finishing, for instance, the windscreen. But before I want to attach the and rivet the top screen, the top skin, I really want to have all the avionics installed, because if you need to do that later, that's a lot of work and you have to lay down in the plane on your back, and that's not a very comfortable place to work on. Okay, we set the tank apart, and now we can start working on the different avionics. So one of the avionics we have is the ECU. As you know, I'm going to install the UL Power 520 engine, and it's a full FADEC ECU controlled engine. So that's at least one of the most important parts. Besides that, I have several RDACs that need to be installed. I'm trying to see if the skin fits with the ECU installed. Turns out the access plate is of course attached with plate nuts, and because of the plate nuts depth, I needed to put the ECU a little bit lower, but that's okay. Besides the ECU, so I have several RDACs. Those are mostly, you could say, translators that translate sensor input into either a CAN bus or an RS-232 interface, so you can connect it to an EFIS or an EMS or whatever. There is one specifically for UL Power engines, provided by MGL. Most of my avionics are from MGL, so that's good. But because I also want to install additional sensors like cylinder head temperatures and exhaust gas temperatures and other stuff, I also need an extra, more kind of an experimental RDAC that enables me to connect a lot of different types of sensors, like fuel sensors and current sensors and whatever. Also, I need to install an extra GPS unit. It's not mandatory because my AFIS already has a GPS input, but this one is specifically for the trig transponder and radio. And I'm going to install the radios and transponders from trig and the AMS and EFIS from MGL, but those are all on the panel. So I'm now currently only installing the avionics, which are between the firewall and the sub panel. So the firewall is the plate you can see, the shiny plate on the front, and the primed green primed plate behind it. That's the sub panel. And before that, or after that, you could say, there will be the final panel. I don't have that many pieces of avionics. I know there are several builders, at least in the Netherlands, that have a huge amount of avionics. So that's weeks and weeks of work to install all that. I can do it in only a few days, so that's nice. And still, I think I have more than enough information. Also, as one of the goals of this plane actually is for me to create my own avionics. So I'm installing, let's say, the basic avionics, and once I'm flying, I want to build my own avionics based on tablets, normal standard tablets, and some Raspberry Pi or BeagleBone parts. But for now, I'm just installing the standard Avionics. Another thing I need to do is wire them all. So I'm now currently only installing them, as in physically putting them in place. After that, I need to install them. Besides the Avionics, we're now working on the buses. So there is going to be a main bus, which is a 12 volt bus, that is powered by the two batteries that you can see. I'm trying to make them independent, so if one battery fails, the other, and even if it short circuits, the other one will still be able to drive the bus. That is especially important because the engine is a full FADEC engine, so if I wouldn't have any electricity, that will be a problem because the engine would stop, and that's not a good idea. So besides the main bus, there will also be a ground bus, and there will be a special Avionics bus and a E-bus. Some people call it an endurance bus or emergency bus or whatever. And that's only where the FADEC and the two fuel pumps will be on, because that should never lose power. I mean, you can lose all power, but the ECU and the fuel pumps should never lose power, because if they lose power, then your engine will definitely quit, which is not a good thing. Okay, all Avionics are installed fastened with plate nuts, so it's easy to later remove them or replace them or whatever. And besides the Avionics, I also have several relays, because sometimes currents are going to be too high for normal, let's say, switches, or either manual switches or electronic switches. So I use relays for that. Most planes use normal relays. I decided to go for SSRs, which are solid state relays. These are actually transistor types of relays. They have the advantage of using less current, and they don't wear that easily. However, it's easier to get them in for high currents. But I found several of them online, so I'm going to use those. Okay, continuing building my pie in the sky.